You know, I don't even think I could count the number because they varied in size from large communities fleeing conflicts to members of a small family. So there's been, I think over the years we've probably had between 50 and 75 different language communities, ethnic communities in the school at any one time. So it's been quite amazing. When I first came to the school, the ESL population was growing. We had many students coming in as visa students from Hong Kong and from Taiwan.
At that time, as I recall, there were a lot more Vietnamese students, we had Sri Lankans, and we had a lot of East Europeans. There was a big language barrier, particularly, as I recall, in my first few days being a new teacher, I just kind of said, well, what are you having problems with? And just communicating on that kind of a level with them. And they were having a lot of problems with the merchants in the neighborhood, understanding what they were saying and trying to communicate with people who ran the stores and the shops in the neighborhood.
The department head of the English department at the time, his name was Jim Craig. He really revamped the whole library and got rid of a lot of the type of literature that we're all used to studying. There's nothing wrong with it. But he brought in so many different novels written by Canadians of different cultural groups. We had Vietnamese authors, Sri Lankan authors, and also Native Canadians. And it was a wonderful way for us also to absorb the culture through poetry, short stories, plays, and novels of different cultures that are now living in Canada.
Our kids have always reacted rather well to new people coming in because within their own families, within their own family background, they've also experienced it.
Even a lot of Canadians who come from disparate cultures have sort of integrated to a point that we all are familiar with what we wear, for instance, and how we speak and how we communicate with each other, even though that we are from different lands, so to speak. People who are brand new here are, you know, they can't expect them to suddenly change. They have to be afforded the time and the understanding and the toleration to be able to integrate at their own pace, which is different for everybody and different for people from different backgrounds and different circumstances.
There were many different communities present in the class, and so English very much was the common language for them all. And over the years, getting involved in the sports programs, whether it be the volleyball or soccer or table tennis teams, extraordinarily popular. The kids got themselves involved in the community, and on top of, you know, the usual schoolwork and so on, they were also working in the community and finding jobs at some of the stores like No Frills, etc., etc. So extraordinarily busy lives, which really made them true Parkdalians. The communities adapted very quickly, and I don't think after a while we even realized that people, in some cases, hadn't been in Canada all that long.
The Roma have to feel that there is no discrimination, and they more or less find the life here quite different from where they're coming from, because nobody shouts at them, nobody gives them a hard time because of their color. There are various problems that they have because they are the latest arrivals into this environment in which so many newcomers come.
It's like all groups coming in, there are settlement issues. And we have to provide them an opportunity to do better and integrate, if possible, into our society.
When I came to the school last year in May, what I was trying to do was find different ways to integrate you guys. I was trying to find different ways to bring in Parkdale students that are Roma and non-Roma students together to do activities together.
I think one thing we need to do as a school is have a lot more integration in classes.
We could immerse these kids and break up their group into smaller groups somehow, force them to have to speak English a little bit more, show them that other students, you have nothing to fear of these students, you know, that these students are different than the students you went to school with in Hungary.
The dominant issue is the prejudice that they face, right? The dominant issue is people's expectations of behavior and the feeling that they're being reinforced because the actions aren't always what people are used to, I would say, in our school system.
It takes the Roma families at least a year to realize that the education system in Canada is very different from the one that they came from in Europe, where their children were placed in segregated schools or segregated classes, and where most of them didn't get to do much more than some kind of apprenticeship, which also didn't lead to much work.
The other things that they see as doors that are open is having a great education, having the opportunity to actually get a great job after you've had an education. You know, they don't have those same outcomes in Hungary. Even if you have a university degree as a Roma person, there's a chance that you might not be able to get employed for the simple fact that you are Roma. There's an 85% unemployment rate for Roma in Hungary. There's actually 100% almost unemployment rate for Roma in Romania. The unemployment rate is directly reflective of Roma identity.
I mean, I think the biggest issue, and the one I would talk about, is really at the foundation of everything, and that's the likelihood that they're going to be able to stay in Canada. You know, many times we're working through something and it'll come up, I'll ask them, you know, well, what do you want to do next year? A student will come up to me and they won't have, say, tried out for the soccer team. And I'll say, it doesn't matter, you know, try out next year. Or next year you're going to be in this class and, you know, this is one more step towards the mainstream classes. And often the response I get to that is, what does it matter? I'm not going to be here next year anyway. They all know that their refugee claims are being denied almost universally right now. So you can imagine the kind of effect that has on students in terms of their motivation to integrate in school, to learn English, to put any kind of effort into their education when they don't really feel like they necessarily have a stake here. They don't necessarily feel wanted here.
They're so like this because they've been so like this for centuries that they don't know how to be like this, you know? So when you see them all together hiding and they're all together hanging out, like this is like a self-preservation, self-protection kind of psychological way of being.
And it's a natural thing to want to get together with people who are like you and who speak your language.
It's not just them, it's their families, it's their communities, it's the Roma community that does this, hiding. Why do you think you haven't heard anything about this community? The world hardly even knows about who Roma are. To this day, they've only heard about these mythological gypsies that travel in caravans and read crystal balls and tarot cards and put curses on people.
The most difficult thing that I face, seeing how other people treat them as if they're not as important or as valuable, and that hurts because I can imagine that that's how they have experienced so much of their life, and I can't even imagine how you overcome obstacles if everywhere you turn you feel as if people don't trust you or don't think you're worthy of what everyone else is worthy of.
Can you imagine that you've only known them for a year? Imagine now if you were living in Hungary and these same ideas and stereotypes have been going on for hundreds of years. How hard it is to undo all of that thinking, you know, when something is so deeply embedded. It's not just you thinking that, it's your parents, it's your grandparents, it's your great-grandparents, it's your whole country thinking that.
The Roma in Canada have to realize that the education is their ticket to better life, and that their children could do much better here, and that nobody's going to persecute them on the basis of their color or racial background, and that if they do well in school, then they have some possibilities. That has to sink into the Roma's minds, into their understanding of what their children can achieve here, because that wasn't the case in the countries where they came from.
The fact that they could be Roma, they could live in peace, they could go to school, they could have jobs, they could have police protect them if need be, access to health care if need be, an ambulance will show up if they happen to be sick. They won't have Molotov cocktails thrown through their homes at night. They won't have, you know, neo-Nazi groups like the Magyar Garda marching through their neighborhoods. You know, the incentives for being here in Canada is like winning the lottery. You know, this is obviously a life that not just Roma, but people from anywhere around the world would like to have. You know, we have a great country.
We are one of the very few countries in which you actually get to face a judge when you are being examined about your refugee claim. You can present your case in person. It's examined very thoroughly. In the case of the Roma, there is quite a strong message being sent from the Minister of Immigration that these are bogus claims. They introduce visa for Czech Republic. So it's obvious that the minister is not in favor of accepting these people. The members of the refugee board who make the final decisions are supposed to be independent decision makers, and their decisions are made independently, but their job depends on the minister. So if they go against what minister says, that's why I suspect that there is a lot of negative decisions because of the public pronouncement that the Minister of Immigration made against these Roma.
Circumference, how much is measured around, outside? 1 centimeter diameter. So your circumference for the cup was 27 centimeters?
They are coming from a Central European country which is essentially democratic, but they suffer there very grave injustices, but from this far away, it looks like you look at Hungary or Czech Republic and you think, well, why would they have to come all the way here to get refugee status? But they really do suffer over there. They are persecuted, they are discriminated, they are not hired in any work, their children go to segregated education systems. So all of these, they have difficult time accessing medical treatment, housing. So cumulatively, they are discriminating on so many levels that the refugee board used to look at it as that all this discrimination amounts to persecution. So they would accept them. 10, 12 years ago, people were accepted in 90% of the cases. And now it's a problem.
So they know that a lot of people want them in the school, but at the same time they know that that doesn't totally matter. That if there's no impact on the broader situation, if their refugee claims are going to be denied, then it's not as important that they make one friend here or complete one academic unit here. So I think the biggest challenge that I've seen is simply the insecurity of their status here in Canada. If that were resolved, not to say every single person, every single refugee claim was accepted, but if they felt like there was a strong hope that they would be able to stay here, that it mattered how they filled out that refugee claim, that it mattered that they were going before a court and they could succeed there, I think that could have a huge impact on their involvement in the school.
That's it.
Okay. Okay, no big problem. Okay.
Yes, that's
So
not.
remember what we, okay.